All right. Oh, I gotta get this stretching. Oh, welcome back to another An Easy Mind reaction. Um, hope everyone's day is going well. You are just waking up. That's crazy. If you are just waking up and watching one of my videos, shout out to you, man. You know, or woman. Appreciate that. Appreciate the love. But either or, hope your day is going well or went well, whether it's ending or starting. But today we're reacting on a video from one of my favorite channels here on this YouTube platform, The Pursuit of Wonder, which I guess essentially on the same thing I'm on, but instead I'm more so like reacting to different videos out there, and it's more I guess selfish in a way. Uh, I'm looking to understand myself, but I think if I understand myself and then showcase it, it might give something like a reference point for other people to kind of understand themselves. So maybe in being selfish, I'm also being selfless, but that's besides the point. Great channel they have. um they, I don't want to say study, but they explore and make videos on a slew of different philosophies and ideologies and doctrines, based off of the great minds of the past, of which the world has come to see. But I don't want to stall the introduction too long. Not much I feel like I can say. Let's just go right into the video. Oh well, you can read hopefully. But the title is "The More You Accept, the Less You Suffer: The Philosophy of Baruch Spinoza." I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Baruch. I don't think it's ch because I don't know if that's Spanish. It sounds Spanish, or maybe I'm just guessing because of the last name. But whatever. Let's get into the video, man.
This video is sponsored by Blinkist. Use the link in the description and you'll receive one free week and 25% off an annual premium membership. Considered one of the most consequential thinkers of the early modern period, Baruch Spinoza proposed new
Baruch.
revolutionary ideas about reason, knowledge, free will, the nature of God, and humanity's relationship with everything. As one of the early pioneers of the intellectual movements of rationalism and the Enlightenment, Spinoza merged in advanced aspects of philosophy, religion, psychology, and science, seeking new ways of understanding, through reason, how one could live a more joyous and contented life in greater harmony with the cosmos. Spinoza was born in Amsterdam, Netherlands in
I guess I
1632.
was wrong.
He was born into a modest Jewish family and raised in a Spanish-Portuguese Jewish community in the
Maybe not.
city. He received a traditional Jewish upbringing and education and is understood to have been a very intelligent and scholarly child. As Spinoza grew older, however, he also grew increasingly skeptical of his Jewish faith and
Mm.
organized religion in general. In his 20s, Spinoza would be exposed to modern philosophy, and this would ultimately lead to the final break that separated him completely from his religious upbringing and set him out on his journey toward new, revolutionary thinking. Around the same time, when Spinoza was 23, he was banned and shunned by the Jewish community, including his own family. Although the precise reason for his excommunication is unknown, Spinoza's masterwork, The Ethics, which would be published years later in 1677, reveals aspects of what Spinoza likely asserted and what likely led to his excommunication:
Dang.
staunch, radical challenges to the fundamental tenets of religion. Throughout his work, Spinoza would reject the validity of things like traditional concepts of an immortal soul, the legitimacy of the Bible, divine law, and the very nature of God. Understandably, this did not go over very well for many at the time. Spinoza wrote, however, "I do not know how to teach philosophy without becoming a disturber of the peace." In place of traditional religion, Spinoza wanted to invent new religious concepts that moved away from superstition, blind faith, and dogma, and instead moved toward objective understandings of the universe, arrived at
Okay.
through reason.
So like, I'm understanding what he's trying to get at, but I guess I'm a bit skeptical on that part, because I wonder if, I guess this is a question to you guys. Do you guys think that we can never get to a place where uh, um, there's an objective, concrete, solidified understanding of the universe. Are we advanced enough in our thinking to even, uh, 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 if necessary, create tools to help us understand? It's like, from my experience and understanding of other people's experience, a lot of what the universe is today, what the world is today, it seems very subjective, and it seems like a very much to each their own kind of ideology. And I'm just curious. Well, first, I'm curious, but I'm also skeptical of the chances that we might ever get to a point where everything is, you know, agreed upon, so to speak. Because I think it's very arbitrary, interpretation of how things are. Like, for example, we may think of this table which I'm recording on, or this laptop, or the video we're watching. Those are all things, that could be thought of as being objectively true. Like, a table is a table, but within that, the experience of the table might be something which is altered or different from the going into the next person, or asking the next person what they think about the table. And so I think it's just things like that, where if we're not able to understand ourselves, if there's no underlying truth in which we could all, subjugate ourselves to, or which we're all connected to, I think it'll be very hard to come together, or to find something in which we could come together with. I think Christianity did that to an extent, or rather, not to an extent, but uh, I think they were the most successful religion in grouping the most amount of people to come together under one ideology, under one thinking, under one religion. But even then, there were still people who disagree with it, and disagree with uh, their reasoning of the world, of the universe. But I think it's necessary. I feel like it can't, because without that underlying truth, it's like, if everyone thought differently, there would be chaos. But if everyone thinks all the same, I mean, I don't know. If I can't find a place in my mind where I think something like that would be bad. Maybe too much structure. But I feel like if we all agree on it, then it wouldn't be deemed as structure. It would just be deemed as not a beneficial, for lack of better words, a great way of life. A good way for each individual to live. But yeah, I mean, that's that. Let's get back to the video.
In terms of understanding Spinoza's attempt to do so, it is important to understand his conception of nature. Spinoza divided the universe, or being, into three parts: substance, attributes, and modes. Substance here referring to the material that things are made out of, something in itself that needs nothing else in order for it to exist or be conceived. Attributes being the qualities that comprise the essence of a thing in order for it to be conceived and described, and modes being the individual form a thing takes. For Spinoza, in order for things to come into existence, and for anything to exist at all, there must be an underlying substance of nature that is unaffected by
Right.
anything else and does not need anything else in order for it to exist. It must be universal, infinite, and independent, a single underlying infinite substance with infinite expressions or modes. Or put differently, one infinite being, and everything that exists is just a different way of being. Spinoza would refer to this infinite independent substance as nature or God.
So that's I kind of do the same. Well, maybe my thinking derives from uh, uh his thinking, or maybe his thinking that's been pushed out in different ways, in which I've come to understand it later on in life. But I have the same process of thoughts, where I think what they're about to get into, like his whole idea of God, like I refer to it as God too, but it's not the same as the religious understanding or definition of God. It's more so the idea that there's there's this conception or I guess you can refer to it as a virtue, in which needs to stand above man, in which we could all as individuals subjugate ourselves to, which we all subject ourselves to. I think Jordan Peterson spoke about it in his biblical series on his channel. I think it's like 19 videos within that series, but I think it follows the same idea in which it's this grand idea of like way of life, a way of life which is good, for the most not even, I don't want to say for the most part, but for what it is good for the the whole of the world, for each individual. I guess some individuals might disagree with it because of specifics within the individual's life, but on a grand scale, you know, it'll be something that'll be good for all of us. And so I think that's the idea of what God or what nature is, to subject ourselves to something greater than us. Because if we don't have anything to subject ourselves to, then it's just it sounds like a case for utter chaos. Everyone's running about and defining things on their own, creating things up, and essentially creating their own gods. And there's no understanding, there's no basis, there's no underlying truth for us to attach ourselves to. And I think um, that's necessary for the perpetuation of humanity, of mankind. Because without that, I think we'll eventually all, you know, kill ourselves. Metaphorically, is that metaphoric? No, literally, we'll actually. I'm not to say we'll go around murdering each other, but humanity will eventually cease to exist. Humankind, the humanity, it all come to an end.
Whatever is in God, and nothing can be or be conceived without God, Spinoza wrote.
Mm,
For Spinoza, God is not a man, a woman, or a
right,
human of any sort. It does not have any personal interest, special consideration of humankind, or any conscious will at all. Any conceptions that liken God to this, for Spinoza, are merely an anthropomorphized projection of the human imagination. Although the term God, of course, has religious implications, Spinoza's God arguably requires no religious faith, or at least very little comparatively speaking. And more importantly, one does not necessarily need to throw out scientific and rational thinking in order to discuss, agree with, or benefit from the philosophy Spinoza builds from here. Albert Einstein famously said, "I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of what exists, not in a God who concerns himself with fates and actions of human beings."
right,
This different conception of God is fundamentally important to the rest of Spinoza's philosophy, because if God is simply the natural order of the way things are, according to the laws of nature, we can learn what God wants, so to speak, and how to live well in the universe by simply studying and understanding, through reason, the nature of the universe. For Spinoza, this is the task of humanity and the way to a joyous life. Specifically, this would come from attempting to understand the causal relationship amongst things in nature. Nature operates through a process of causality, a continuous webbing of cause and effect, everything affected by something else and everything affecting something else. And since, for Spinoza, nothing is outside of nature and nothing is separate from nature, this process of causality
right.
also includes us, including the human mind. And so, with this, Spinoza would argue that our sense of free will is an illusion. Everything we are, everything we do, is the product of being affected by other modes of nature, every feeling, emotion, thought, choice, and action.
I think building on what is being said here, the reason this might be hard to explain, I might stumble here and there, but hopefully I get it out in the end. I think the reason why we, I don't say we, but a lot of us believe free will to be true is because we're looking at things from far away. We're looking at a whole picture. As it is from afar, it looks like everything is kind of happening on its own. But when you peer in closely and you dig deeper, you come to find out that one part of the whole is affecting the next part of the whole, which is affecting the next part of the whole. And the deeper you get, you realize there's more parts as to why something is happening, why things are happening the way they are. And I think I said it on a past reaction video, but that's the whole idea of being more conscious and being more aware of oneself. You come to find out that a lot of your actions, your thoughts, your emotions are very repetitive and routine until you once become conscious of it, until you become aware, and then you make that decision to kind of how do I say, stray away from the autonomous autonomous ways of life. But I think it's difficult because also in that sense it might be contradicting, but even stepping away from those autonomous modes of life, you kind of like, if you're basing off the idea that free will doesn't exist, it's like, okay, if I'm doing that, if I'm straying away from those modes, isn't no longer, is it not free will anymore? But it's like, at the same time, okay, how do I explain this? I feel like I'm losing myself, or I'm losing you guys, but it's like free will in that sense. When you stray away from the autonomous rules of life, is free will, or is it still this mechanism which is following a natural way of life? Are you still, I don't want to say being controlled, but are you still following this path that was already set in stone? Where does that idea to quote unquote wake up come from? Is that a separate way of life? It's the whole idea. Can you wake up from nature? Is nature the idea of being asleep and being in this routine way of life? Or if you stray away from that routine, are you now granted free will? Are you now able to do things as you wish? But it's also the things in, like, if you're I the things you wish, are they the things which you wish, or the things which the universe is simply passing through you, and you're merely this vessel which is intercepting these wave frequencies, which translates to the thoughts and emotions in which the individual has. It's complicated and it's hard to explain sometimes, but hopefully I got through that. Hopefully it's understood. Leave a comment if you have thoughts and concerns about that, and if you want to relay something which is going through your mind right now. But yeah, let's get back to the video.
Though this might appear despairing and fatalistic, Spinoza would go on to attempt to argue that through this knowledge, we can obtain a new level of understanding ourselves and a different kind of freedom. The highest activity a human being can attain is learning for understanding, because to understand is to be free, wrote Spinoza.
Yeah.
Since we are a part of nature, bound to the laws of nature, which operate consistently and verifiably through causality, we can understand and gain perspective about how things affect us, and we can make better decisions and evaluations for what we do, how we interact with the world, how we respond, and how we treat and perceive things. We can thus become active participants in the unfolding structure of the universe. In this, according to Spinoza, we become free, at least in the sense that what we do and experience will no longer purely be the result of our external world, but our internal world, the intuitions of nature guided by our higher faculties of reason. We will thus know when and how to better moderate, relegate, silence, or embrace our automatic responses to the world, our emotions and passions and desires, so to best ensure the preservation and quality of our lives.
It's like, I think I found a better way to explain it. It's like we can't separate ourselves from nature, but can we, as individuals, as conscious beings, being able to metathink, can we take the forefront of nature, get to a point where we understand the ways of life, and just be more conscious about the decisions we make, the emotions we have, and the things we do? And in doing that, we can, I think we just, in being more conscious and being more aware, you further kind of, how do I say, you further expand, or you further grow the number of decisions, choices you're able to make. Because if you only have one way of thinking, if you're in this autonomous mode, you believe there only to be one way of life. You believe there to only be one way of doing things. I think as you become aware of what you're doing, what you're feeling, and what you're thinking, you're aware. Oh, I can take this way of life, or I can try out this way of life, and see what that does for you as an individual, whether that benefits you or it compromises you, or it compromises your circumstances. You're just trying out these many different things to find a way to bring yourself, the individual, uh in a peaceful existence. And so I think that's what, maybe I'm wrong, but I think this is what uh Mr. Spinoza was getting at.
Spinoza wrote, "Human infirmity in moderating and checking the emotions I name bondage. For, when a man is a prey to his emotions, he is not his own master, but lies at the mercy of fortune,
Mm,
so much so that he is
exactly. Yeah.
often compelled, while seeing that which is better for him, to follow that which is worse.
Mm,
Understanding how things are liberates one from the chains of how things are. A prisoner is only a prisoner if they are restricted from where they want to go. In knowing how things inexorably are and why things are inevitably that way,
I like this
one
guy.
becomes wise and content with where they are, mitigating the desire to be elsewhere. The free person is perhaps merely conscious of the necessity of all things, including their own lack of freedom. Though we are finite and temporal beings bound to an individual myopic view of everything, through reason and intellect, we can understand things that are bigger than ourselves. We can gain perspective from things that are bigger than ourselves. We can
Hmm.
see existence through what Spinoza referred to as subspecie aeternitatis, under the aspect of eternity.
Hmm.
When we see the whole of nature, of which we are somehow an infinitesimal part, inexorably and forever locked into, we recognize that all things that happen are inevitable and necessary, that what is good or bad is relative to us, but is an impersonal unfolding of time and space to everything else, that we are no more but no less important, that everyone and everything is an unchosen part of the whole, a single particle amidst a sea of an eternal substance of continual motion and reconfiguration. This perspective arguably lessens the power that everything has over us. By realizing our meagerness and inexorable interconnectedness with everything, affected by an unending and continuing line of causality, which we did not and can never really choose,
Right.
we become less rigidly attached to what has and will come. We become less anxious about doing exactly the right or wrong things. We become less regretful. We become less scornful. We become more indifferent to that which we cannot control nor change. We understand the storms, the lions, the snakes,
Right.
the people we fear and despise. And finally, we gain a sense of poise, liberation, and peace.
I wish. I think I finally was able to put a name to the I guess the founder of this thinking, in a sense. But I've learned this, adopted this way of thinking. I think I forgot how long ago. It doesn't really matter, but the person I learned it from was Alan Watts. I explained it on, I think, the most recent reaction. But a lot of what they're explaining here, what happens to, I don't want to say the individual, but what has happened to me is a lot what they're explaining it to be. You just kind of like let go, uh, and this sense of peace, of serenity, kind of just falls over you, and like everything isn't as serious, or doesn't take as much strain to do things. Everything, because the whole idea I think of life is this natural flow which happens, and there's a lot of people who are trying to like force it to happen. Force the things which are inevitably going to happen as they're going to happen. And a lot of people try to control it, but once you, I think, adopt this way of thinking, you kind of come to this place of where life is as it is, and it's going to happen as it happens. All that's to it is to be aware that it's happening. And it's funny because that's the name of the poetry and prose book that I put out, I think, about a year and a half ago. And I wish I had it on me. I'll read it back to you guys right now. Actually, uh, it's right there. I'll be right back. Hold on. So that was what call it. This book, like I said, I released a year and a half ago, but it reads, "It's happening, and has been for all of time. It's happening right now in this very moment as I write this. It's been happening since the time before my birth, and it will continue to happen long after I am gone from this reality. To think that it never stops, not once. There's no pause. It's just ever flowing on and on. Where does it end? Or better yet, where did it begin? Or better yet, what is it? What is happening? Well, a lot is happening. But know you've been given freedom to pick and choose. Don't think too much about it because you'll find out you can never be so sure. Just go. All there is to it is to be aware that it's happening. And like I said, once you gain that conscious awareness of what's taking place around you, once you understand, grow in understanding of the natural ways of life, you kind of take this take this perspective where you kind of just let go and you understand that you too are part of nature. And there's a whole lot. Well, actually, I don't want to say there's a whole lot because that's really the basis of the idea. You really don't need to say much more, but you can go on and try to find, I guess, different analogies or metaphors in which way in which you one can explain it. But that's pretty much to it. Find a way to uh, subject yourself to the natural ways of life. But yeah, let's get back to the video.
Of course, Spinoza's ideas are not without reasonable critiques. If
Mm-hmm.
everything is cause and effect, including the mind, how can the sort of freedom Spinoza defines actually be considered freedom? If every event is a reaction to some prior event, would not one's own nature and the ability to reason and understand also be a product of causality? Would not one's own understanding of causality be a product of it? How can one be free because they follow a certain intellectual line of causality but not another, though they never really fundamentally chose or controlled either? Moreover, can one ever truly have enough knowledge to have a sufficient understanding of what is happening, of what is good or best or true? How can one, even at the collective scale of humanity, understand enough to know how everything is working and will work in the future?
I think that's where the idea of archetypes come into place. Um, I don't what call it? I don't get high often, but at the times in which I do, I think I said on a past video, I do take visual notes. I do record myself, so when I'm back in my sober state, I can try to break down and try to understand what's going on when in that state. But the same way in which I kind of see cannabis to be a sort of low level psychedelic. But I think the same thing happens when people are on much stronger psychedelics, such as like ayahuasca or I don't know names all too well, so I'm not gonna get hung up on that. But I think what happens is there's a core definition or the core idea of what an individual is, and that comes about when they're under such psychedelic influence. And so a lot of times for me when I'm under that influence, what I want to do is first number one, I want to work. I want to do something what I would deem worthwhile. I want to maybe make a video, and I'm a lot of into creation, into artistic endeavors. So maybe I want to uh, make a short film or write something which I would deem profound. But like to give another example, my friend, we were just discussing this the other day, but when she's under the influence, she becomes this very motherly and nurturing individual. And that seems to be who she is at the core. And so this whole idea of, this natural way of life. Um, Horoscopes, astrology, I think, yeah, astrology goes into a little bit. I think it kind of, uh, um, how do I say, it kind of lost its credibility once it reached mainstream and people trying to apply it to like very uh I don't know how to say it, just situations that could have been applied to any individual. I think when you're really concerning yourself with archetypes or horoscopes or however you wish to describe it, there's just like a core identity of each individual in which they desire or aspire to be in this life. And I think that's where we kind of as individuals find ourselves, or can find us, or rather can find ourselves, uh, or find our way in this life. And yeah, that's pretty much to it.
Properly determine what is truly and enduringly optimal. Though many questions like these are still left open in Spinoza's work, his ability to amalgamate the various methods of human thinking, break free from indoctrination and antiquated conceptions of being, and innovatively advance the possibility and methods of human understanding, he opened the doors for new ways of considering questions like these, and ultimately changed the course of everything forever.
Mm, powerful. I think that's the end of the video.
This video was sponsored by
Yeah, it's just advertisement. But yeah, no, that was a great video. Very powerful. Very informational. I learned a lot, or rather, uh, solidified already existing beliefs. Further solidified. I'm still willing to question them and critique them and find uh, more efficient ways of thinking or more efficient beliefs. But to, I guess, to emphasize or to reiterate the whole idea, do I need to do that? I'm not sure I need to do that because I feel like I'm gonna mess up the video if I try to say what was already said. So I think, yeah, never mind. I'm gonna just leave it at that. Um, I will be joining you guys in the comments though, so please do leave a comment. But make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, make sure to turn on post notifications. I think I need to start adding a subscription sticker, not a sticker, but an edit throughout my video. Actually, nah, I don't want to do that. That's a bit tacky. But yeah, like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and if you don't do anything else, if you don't do any of that, if there's nothing else you do, please do leave a comment. I would like to have a conversation with you. Good day.